There was a time in Britain when children were trusted. Not believed, just trusted. They were given responsibility. They were given tools, fire, and occasionally, each other. There was no risk assessment, there was no helmet, just a quiet nod from an adult and the phrase, "You'll be fine." The thing is, you were not fine. By the end of this video, you'll seriously question how any of us even survived our own childhoods. Let's start with the big one. Playing out until dark. Straight after breakfast, you were released into the wild. There was no phone, no GPS tracker, not even a water bottle. Your instructions were simple and delivered with the seriousness of a military command. Be back when the streetlights come on. That wasn't guidance. It was a threat. Your parents had absolutely no idea where you were. You could be 3 streets away, building a den in a patch of nettles, or you could be halfway to France. As long as you were back when that orange glow flickered to life, the mission was a success. It was a strange kind of freedom, one that involved grazed knees, mysterious stains, and an internal clock calibrated purely by hunger and impending darkness. Then there was the daily gauntlet, walking to school alone. At the tender age of 6, you were trusted to cross roads, avoid strangers, and navigate time, usually with a watch you couldn't actually read. If you were late, that was your fault. If you were early, that was also suspicious. You'd be there, a tiny person in an oversized coat, lugging a satchel that was half your body weight, responsible for your own survival twice a day. The green cross code was your only armor, a mantra you'd repeat under your breath as a Ford Cortina whizzed past your nose. And if you made it to the school gates, you'd already completed the day's most dangerous task before the first bell even rang. Around the age of 8, you graduated to a new level of domestic responsibility. The words that struck both fear and pride into your heart were, "Go on, make your dad a brew." This wasn't just about making a drink. This was about being trusted with a boiling kettle, a lethal weapon filled with a liter of scalding water. You'd be standing on a stool, the kettle shaking in your tiny hands, aiming for a chipped mug from 1973. There was no supervision, just the distant sound of the TV. One slip, one moment of distraction, and you'd have third-degree burns. But hey, at least the tea would have been strong. You learned to respect the power of steam and the structural integrity of a cheap porcelain handle very, very quickly. And what about bonfire night? Today, it's a highly organized, ticketed event behind a barrier. Back then, fireworks weren't an event. They were loose items you could buy at the newsagent. They were given to children with the simple instruction, "Don't be daft with it." Sparklers were essentially white-hot metal rods that you were encouraged to write your name with in the dark. Roman candles were handheld weapons of unpredictable power, and rockets were launched from milk bottles that had a good chance of toppling right over and firing directly into your neighbor's prize-winning roses. It was chaotic, it was dangerous, and it was apparently character-building. If you thought making tea was a big deal, nothing prepared you for the ultimate promotion: babysitting other children. You were 10. Your sibling was 6. Your only qualification? Being older. Your parents would leave you alone for hours with a list of instructions. Don't burn the house down. Don't answer the door, and the emergency number is written by the phone. You were in charge of another human being, armed only with a cooker you were barely tall enough to use and a landline telephone. The sheer weight of that responsibility was immense. If something went wrong, you knew you'd never, ever hear the end of it. It was the first, and possibly most terrifying, management role you ever had. You were also trusted with coins. Actual money. You'd be sent to the corner shop with a handwritten list and a handful of change, tasked with buying a pint of milk, a loaf of bread, and a copy of the Beano. The final instruction was always the same: and don't lose the change. This wasn't a gentle reminder. This was a critical mission objective. If you lost that change, there would be consequences. Maybe you'd have to go without your weekly sweets, or worse, face the silent, disappointed stare that said, "We trusted you with 17 pence, and you failed." The walk home, clutching the coins in a sweaty palm, was more nerve-wracking than any exam. Let's talk about tools and DIY. Your role in any home improvement project was clear. You were the unpaid, untrained, and uninsured assistant. You held ladders. You used hammers to hit things that weren't nails. You passed saws to adults who were precariously balanced on something that wasn't a ladder. Safety gear was for wimps. If you hurt yourself, the response wasn't sympathy. It was a gruff, "That'll teach you." It was a hands-on education in physics, gravity, and the sharpness of metal. And did it teach you? No, it never did. You'd be back there the next weekend, holding the same ladder, hoping for a different outcome. And who could forget being left in the car alone? Your parents would just need to pop in somewhere for a minute, which could mean anything from 5 minutes to half an hour. You were left on the vinyl seat of a Ford Sierra, with the window cracked open just enough to let in air, but not enough for a kidnapper to get their arm through. There was no seatbelt on, no iPad, no snacks. Just you and your own thoughts, fogging up the windows. If someone tried the door handle, the pre-agreed protocol was simple. Duck. Just get down on the floor and hope for the best. It was a masterclass in patience and quiet paranoia. Navigating the roads was another survival skill you learned on the job. We're not talking about quiet cul-de-sacs. We're talking about using the big road. There were no zebra crossings, no pelican crossings, no friendly lollipop person to see you safely to the other side. There was just you, a gap in the traffic, and hope. The green cross-code man could tell you to stop, look, and listen all he wanted. But he couldn't save you from a speeding Austin Allegro on a busy A-road. You learned to judge speed and distance with the precision of an air traffic controller because you had to. Your life literally depended on it every single day. And finally, fire, just fire, full stop. Matches were left on the mantelpiece. Candles were a normal part of a power cut. The gas cooker had to be lit with a terrifying click whoosh that always felt like it might take your eyebrows off. Fire wasn't seen as this incredibly dangerous element to be locked away from children. Fire was just a normal part of life. And somehow, through all of this, we lived. We survived. Not because we were safer, not because things were better, but probably just because we were luckier. If you survived all of this, you genuinely deserve a medal. Or, at the very least, a nice long lie in bed. Subscribe if you remember any of this, and hit the like button if you're as amazed as I am that we're all still here. We'll be diving into more forgotten parts of Britain in the next video. Thanks for watching.